Okay, hello, dear friends. I hope you all have had a great week. Welcome to our weekly Communities of Practice Sunday check-in session, a half hour of Dharma, reflection, and community connections. If you are a new member of our community, please accept our wholehearted welcome to you. And if you have any questions about our practices and topics, we are all here to help. It is customary in Australia to begin any meeting by acknowledging the traditional owners of our land. So in the spirit of reconciliation, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we walk, study, and reside, the Udi people of the Dawo Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I also pay my respects to the traditional custodians on the various land on which you all are. So a little bit about our check-in session. The check-in session have been developed by our Communities of Practice team and the entire community with the purpose of developing a reflective practice in response to our changing world. Guided by humanistic Buddhism, we would like to help each other to cultivate our practices and build memorable friendships. So last week, Dr. Jonathan Page introduced the concept of Samvega to us, which is the emotions of spiritual urgency. Today, Dr. Page is going to introduce us the antidote of Samvega. So let's welcome Dr. Page to reveal the secret.
Well, thank you, Ejun. Thank you so much for that introduction, and welcome everybody from the 10 directions and auspicious greetings. So today, indeed, we will consider Pasada, which is a sense of clarity of mind and serene confidence that provides an antidote to the disturbing experience of spiritual urgency, or Samvega, that we discussed last week. But first, let's have a brief meditation to deepen our thoughts. And we'll meditate on self-compassion, which is required to negotiate these challenges that we're going to confront today. So everybody, let's begin our meditation by allowing our bodies to become comfortable. So check in with our bodies, make sure they're comfortable, and attend to any discomforts. And gently shut your eyes. And take a slow, deep, mindful breath. And pay attention to that breath, and also to the body and the heart. Be intimate with each moment. And place one hand over your heart and ask yourself, what is it that I wish for myself from the depth of my heart? Safety, joy, peace, love, connection, meaning in my life. Pay attention to your own essential goodness, longing to spiritually awaken. Remember your own good deeds, your intentions, honesty, and love. Perhaps look at yourself through the eyes of someone who loves you. Imagine their feeling of love as they gaze upon you, as a mother gazing upon her only child. If you sense any resistance, then hold that too, in your vast inner space in loving kindness. To keep your hand gently over your heart for the remaining short period of meditation. So you can now gently open your eyes, and we'll consider Pasada, which I've mentioned is a sense of clarity and serene confidence. We can consider the possibility of seeing our way through the dark forest of dukkha. And I'm using here some of the famous 10 ox herding pictures to help us confront this matter of Pasada. We can see in the first picture a young man who is an ox herder, who is lost in a somewhat threatening forest, a situation that we often find ourselves in. He is seeking, but what is he seeking? And in the second picture, we notice that he discovers some tracks on the ground. But what do they represent? Next slide. So here we have three pictures and the original verses. The joyful song of the oriole, which is a songbird. She lives as her true self. I see my true challenge ahead, thinks the ox herder. At last I must act with courage, responsibility, and wisdom. So firstly, we encounter in this forest the encouraging song of a small bird who has itself enacted its true nature. And this bird is encouraging us to do the same. The ox herder discovers an ox, because for an ox herder, that is what's required in his life or her life to complete that life. We, however, are not ox herders, and we are seeking something that is similarly substantial and important to render us whole so that we feel complete in our life. The second picture one can see demonstrated a battle. If you want to pierce its nose and tie it up, do not rely on someone else's strength. At some point, it is up to us. And in the third picture, the ox herder is now gently ending the ox, and the ox is no longer wild. The two friends are walking alongside one another. The ox herder is holding the rope very loosely. This represents our befriending our wiser self, and we walk through a forest that is now friendly in the state of true happiness. So the next slide, please. So the cool clarity and buoyant confidence of Pasada can subdue and transform the urgency of Samvega. And there are three elements to Pasada within the Dharma. One, the deeply felt sense of our own particular precious human life, interconnected with all life, as in the forest with the oriole, stands as an antidote to the meaningless and futile nature of conditioned existence. Two, a trust in our own Buddha nature, our essential goodness, the loving awareness and wisdom deep within ourselves, and cultivating the four Brahma Viharas, the four sublime abodes, standing opposed to the misunderstanding and ignorance of our lives before. And third, within the Eightfold Path, consider the right view, right effort, and right concentration. Right view, or correct, appropriate, insightful view, corrects the deep delusion that we had originally of our nature, of ourselves, and the world around us. We now see the world with right view. Next slide, please. We must never forget, however, the inescapable truth of suffering. Samvega is fundamentally a spiritual urgency, as we discussed last week, aroused by a deep insight into the true nature of things. And it presents in many ways to each of us at different times, with a variety of associated strong psychological and physical feelings, as we see demonstrated here: shock and dismay, misery, and quiet desperation that we can identify with. In each of these images, the person is looking inward. Next slide. So with the practical wisdom of Pasada, which the Greeks called phronesis, we are strengthened and tested daily. And at times we actually revisit Samvega, but now with a wiser mind and with the right view. And we encounter again the four sights, which now motivate us. We may then progress along the joyful bodhisattva path. The final verse, sitting astride the ox, without the rope, the noble person happily returns. The sound of his flute mingles with the crimson sky. He has discovered the garden of joy. Who else could know about this endlessly pleasurable taste? Next slide. So this wonderful poem by Mary Oliver, the late Mary Oliver, called Wild Geese, I think describes this circumstance well. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscape, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese high in the clear blue air are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely you are, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. So next slide. So we have some questions today, and remember again, they're not all questions have answers. Have you discovered or even glimpsed your own precious, authentic life? Have you experienced, even for a moment, your own deep interconnection with others, including with all life? What was this feeling of interconnection like? Did it change your life in any way? And what aspect of your life, or what aspects of your life leads to feelings of compassion? So back to you, Yijun, and we'll break out.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. I love those questions. And also hope we can remember what Jonathan has shared about practical wisdom of Pasada and strengthen it daily to progress on the joyful Bodhisattva path. So now it's the community's turn to discuss these questions and any thoughts you have. We will be placed in groups of 3 to 4 to share and discuss. In the discussion, we do recommend you spend some time getting to know about each other and then discussing our questions. And there will be some Zoom notifications to guide you, but feel free to let the flow of your discussions to guide you. Our sessions are guided by metta, which is unconditional love and kindness for all sentient beings. Let's use these breakout sessions to express and receive loving kindness to and from one another, and take time to pause, share, and listen. We'll also ask you to share some of your findings with the larger group at the end of the breakout session. So now, let's go to our breakout rooms for rich and nourishing discussions. See you all back in 15 minutes.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We'll just wait a second for everybody to return from the 10 directions. So everybody, after those discussions and some thinking, maybe you have some important concepts and drops of wisdom that you might like to place into the chat box. Questions and comments and thoughts from your own world, your own thinking, and share those with us. Yeah, this is lovely. It's these turning points that bring us interconnection, a deep sense of interconnection with others. And thus compassion arises, including for ourselves. Yes, and then as Cecile says, when the ego is tamed and self-importance disappears, there's no more ox. Well, continue to consider and what you may contribute to the chat box. Some element of what's in your mind at the moment, what has arisen for you is important. So place it in the chat box in a way that you find appropriate, and we'll conclude the session with Yijun.
Thank you, Jonathan. Please allow me to share my screen. We really hope the check-in session was helpful to you, and we hope you experienced the unconditional love and compassion of this community. But for anyone who might be experiencing a greater need than what today could meet, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. And you can also reach out to the professional organizations on the screen. So next Sunday, the Community of Practice family will finally meet in person at Nanjing Institute. So for many of us, the community can finally meet offline. So please come, say hi, and send hugs to each other on September 25th. And members who cannot come can still participate since it will be a hybrid session guided by our lovely friend and teacher, Meg Hart. So you can come join either offline or online. And also on October 2nd, we'll mark our 100th Sunday check-in session. How exciting. please come to celebrate with our COP families. And over the past 2 years, this weekly gathering has become a source of strength and hope for so many of us. So let's celebrate on this special day with Venerable Juwei and many generous facilitators from the past 100 sessions. It's our time to send gratitude, love, and compassion to each other. And don't forget, daytime saving time begins at 2 p.m. on October 2nd. And also for those in Melbourne, a very special event, Wisdom and Light, will deliver an immersive digital environment combining art, light, and sound with technology, transporting you into the life of Venerable Master Xingyun. Walk through tranquil digital landscape, hear the sounds of Buddhist practice, and learn more about one-stroke calligraphy in this never-before-seen installation. As we check out today, let us recite the dedication of merits together to send love and compassion to each other and whoever in need.
Let us now dedicate the goodness of what you have done to all living beings. May kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity pervade all worlds. May we cherish and build affinities to benefit all beings. May Chan, Pure Land, and precepts inspire equality and patience. May our gratitude and humility give rise to great vows.
So thank you everyone for joining us for today's check-in session. Now we will continue with our usual post-check-in discussions. So please stay around if you have time. Otherwise, let's see each other either in person or online next Sunday. And most importantly, let's don't forget to apply the antidote of Samvega introduced by Jonathan today and march on the joyful Bodhisattva path together. Thank you all again.